what Corey wanted to know this week was what films have we seen that were, say, good the first time we saw them, and then when we watched them again afterwards weren't quite as good, and then the opposite, ones that we thought were rubbish or bad when we saw them the first time round, and we enjoyed them a lot more second time round.
Mark, you should go first as your special guest, I think.
Thank you. So the one I hated when I saw it the first time was The Last Jedi, episode 8. I think it speaks a lot to sort of fandoms at the moment that have sort of written the scripts in their head before they see the film.
Yeah.
Because when I went to see that, obviously after Force Awakens, I knew everything that was going to happen in the film. I knew I knew what was going to happen next. I knew, that will probably happen. This will probably happen. And then when you see The Last Jedi, and I know it's divisive among Star Wars fans for lots and lots of different reasons. It was totally not what anyone expected. And so in some ways, that's either a really good thing, because obviously, sometimes you want to go and be, shocked or learn something, or that didn't, that was unexpected. Or it's just like, well, they've just completely destroyed everything that happened before. So when I went in and saw it, after I saw it, I was like, well, that was awful. That was terrible. They've done some really bad things there, blah, 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 blah. And then when I saw it again, and I watched it a bit more dispassionately, and not so much like, this is not what I would thought was going to happen. This is not my script. When I watched it again, I realized, there were some really, really good parts. I could see what they were doing. I could see the sort of the aim of the characters and what the writers and, directors trying to do. And I also think because there was so much about it, so many things written about it on Twitter and stuff, that once you perhaps took on board some of those different perspectives, it made the film a more enjoyable experience. I still don't. I mean, it's not perfect. I watched all the Star Wars again just recently, and none of them are obviously perfect, but they're all of them have got some good things. And I think that The Last Jedi as well has some really strong moments. So yeah. So once you get over the geek rage of things not being how you expected, then it was actually a really enjoyable film.
It's interesting you say that. That was one that was potentially going to be my answer for very similar reasons. I think for me with that film, you ended The Force Awakens and Luke turns up and you think, I've said this before on the podcast. You think, Luke's going to come, he's going to sort everything out. He's the man. And then for the whole film, he's just whining. And I but also it feels... you're right. There's some amazing scenes. Watching it again at home, some of the scenes in it are absolutely incredible. True Star Wars scenes, in their scale and everything. But they're just these really odd bits in between that just don't seem to fit. The bit I always go back to is when Luke milks that thing. Like, I just think, why did I need to see that? That's just weird.
I suppose because. I suppose. I mean, I know this is not really about this, but I suppose he's basically gone a bit feral. Luke is. He has. I mean, because Yoda's a bit mad, right? So Yoda's a bit.
That's
mad.
true. That's true.
So I think
very
that
eccentric. Yeah.
But I mean, I think Mark Hamill said this himself. That's not what he saw Luke as. Luke would always be a hero. I think Mark Hamill had said that in his version, Luke could have saved Han just before he died. So, but then that's it, isn't it? Just because that's what you wanted or what you think it is.
That's it. Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Yeah, good choice.
What's your one from good first time and then not so good second?
When I went to see The Matrix 2, I really, really enjoyed it. So it's Revelations, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really, really clever, and I thought it had. It has that big long truck sequence, on the freeway or the motorway. Yeah. It's all that kind of stuff. The architect at the end talking his nonsense. I was really, really hooked. Really, really hooked. Now I don't know if it's number 2 suffers because I know what's coming in number 3 and how crushingly awful number 3 was. But I think what I watched number 2 just recently. And it's just, I mean, it's not a patch on number 1, obviously, So I
No.
think when I watched it, because I liked it because it's a sort of a twist at the end of number 2, and I enjoyed that. But then when I watched it again, you think, well, that's not enough, is it? Just having sort of that twist at the end, and the car chase scene. There's not actually that much going on in that film, which is a shame because I do like it, and I'm looking forward to the 4th one. But yeah, so I was well hyped on Matrix 2 for a long time, wearing the leather jackets and everything, and then when tried to run up walls, and then so I think 2 was bad because it sits between obviously like a phenomenal first film and a dire third film. But I'm annoyed at myself that I really liked the second one.
Do you know what's interesting? You saying that, Mark? I'll touch upon. We'll go over yours next, Matt. But it's interesting because I know what Matt's one is.
Oh, right.
And my one, and I won't tell you what it is right now, but is also a sequel.
Oh, right.
I wonder whether one of the big things about that is because you're so hyped up for a film after a great first one.
Yeah.
And then when you watch it that first time, it is good because it's the second one of that great film that you watch.
Yeah.
And it's not until you watch it again and you go, you know what, actually, that great. But I mean, Matt, you can pick up from here. So we'll start. Should we start the other way around for you, Matt?
I would like to. It's very relevant in this situation. My selection for a film I liked and then didn't is exactly the same film. The second Matrix film.
Oh, wow.
I remember, similar to what you said, I think there'd been quite a wait, hadn't there? I can't remember how many years between the two, and sort of having seen the Matrix, loved the Matrix, such an incredible film, and then I wouldn't see it at the follow-up at the cinema. And coming out in that cinema thinking, wow, that was incredible. I can't believe how good that was. Just my mind's going in all different places. And then, like you said, you then take a bit of a step back and think, oh, God, what were they talking about? Because it is, I must admit, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's when they're talking about, like, it's they have to find the key master or the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And there seems to be all these characters that are suddenly piling into this thing. And
Well, they try to explain all the different phenomena, don't they? So they try to explain ghosts, and they try to explain werewolves, and they try to explain vampires, all because they're all sort of dud programs of the Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's just,
But seeing the Matrix, I watched the Matrix fairly recently, and again had been a good few years since I watched it. Incredible. Still, so some of the effects now are less spectacular than they were before, but it's a solid film. Really.
I mean, I think one that and a couple of other films had a real impact on me. I think, especially growing up. Yeah, I think it was really, really important. Let's hope number 4 is better.
Well, I've not got. I feel number 4 will go in the same way as the 4th Indiana Jones in my mind, because I remember seeing that in the cinema, thinking, oh, it's great, and then just seeing like an old man, and I know he's supposed to be old in it, but Harrison Ford had lost his sort of cool exterior that he had with Indiana Jones. But I get him being Han Solo old, I think worked perfectly as a character, but just Indiana Jones didn't. But yeah, so it's funny you picked the same one. The one that I disliked first and then liked afterwards, I found really difficult to think of. But what I settled for in the end was Space Jam as a film, because when Space Jam came out, I had absolutely no interest in seeing it. So it just didn't appeal to me at the time, and really wasn't interested in it. I'd read a book called No Logo by Naomi Klein, which is a very well-known book about marketing, and it absolutely slates it in that particular book. So again, I was because of the continual product placement in that children's film, and there's a bit where Michael Jordan is laying on the bed in his hotel room, and his manager comes in and says, "Oh, why don't you get up and drink some Mountain Dew and get a Big Mac and blah blah." And it's just so obvious. Like how many brands can you fit into it? But it's just crazy. But having watched it in recent years, I love it. Like just the it's just such an enjoyable film for what it is. It's not perfect, but it's great. I can watch it again and again now.
Did you watch it after watching the docuseries on
Last
Netflix?
Dance? No. I saw it probably, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that, because it was on a Sunday afternoon on TV, and watched it and thought, actually, this is all right. But again, I don't know whether that's, there could be different factors in that. Is it more now, looking back at it, because it's an older film, is there more the nostalgia element to it that appeals to me more than it did then when it was actually out? Maybe, there could be that element to it as well. But
I mean, or maybe you're just so indoctrinated by capitalism now that you're just product placement's fine.
Yeah.
Give me more product placement.
I've got a Big Mac straight up.
Well, like you, Matt, I really struggled with film that I didn't enjoy the first time into the second time. I started even scratching around at TV shows because I thought, I can't think of any film.
Adverts.
However,
love that Hovis advert.
Yeah, that's the one. But I did settle on one that I remember watching. I think I watched it too young and didn't enjoy it for what it was, and that was Donnie Darko. Watched it. I can't remember what year that came out. Mark, you probably know that better than me.
That's a really good one. I'd say 2000.
Well,
one a minute. You talk. 2001.
Oh,
right. So, I mean, I remember watching it and just not having a clue what was going on, and everyone had raved about it, and I thought, I have no idea what's going on here. And it weren't until I was a little bit older and I watched it again, and I just thought it was incredible.
How old were you when you watched it the first time? Because it is quite a teen, angsty sort of. So were you?
How old were you in 2001? Was it?
Well, we were 15, weren't we?
15. Yeah. So I mean, it probably just wasn't the right. At that time for me, it was probably just that little bit too much.
You grew up a lot from 15 to 17, though, James. So,
what are you trying to get at here?
I'm just saying, you've matured well.
My point is, I enjoyed it more the second time. The one that for me was good, and again, I touched upon it earlier, it's a sequel, is one that I actually saw with you, Mark, and we actually went to the premiere to see this film, and that was Anchorman 2. Anchorman 2. We went to the actual premiere in London.
Yeah, that was a great night.
It was a great night. Although Matt, you will remember, me and Mark actually dressed up because it was like a fancy dress, and you had to dress up as a character from there.
Yeah.
I actually grew my moustache specifically for that. We got wigs, and someone asked me if I had to come as Borat. So maybe I'm still scarred from this, but the movie itself, I remember watching it, and it was really funny, haha. And it's not till I've watched it a few times since then, and every time I've gone, this is like a poor version of the first one. Like that they didn't really try, although it was a modern day version of it, because I think, how many years had it been? 10 years?
Yeah, must have been about 10 years.
And that again for me was probably one of the problems. The humour that you had from the 10 years prior on the first one, it just hadn't got that much better, because it was almost like they were still set in the past, but it was just a weird concept. But
I mean, also the night we went to see it, it was the premiere, wasn't it? Because obviously Will Ferrell was there, Paul Rudd was there, Christine Applegate? Was she? Anyway, they was, but so it was a proper real premiere, but also it was sponsored by Jameson's whiskey,
and we were
drunk. And it was free whiskey, pretty much, as far as I remember, at least a couple of free whiskeys. So maybe you were just hyped up on the actual night. We were just giddy, yeah. But no, that's a really good shout, because I think I've only watched bits of it in the sequel after it, and yeah, you're right. It just doesn't seem right or feel right, does it? So yeah, that's a good shout.
Great question sent in from Corey there. That one really got us thinking on that one.